Welcome to another episode of OG55. I am joined by the Italiano. Today we're talking about Universal FanFest. We're talking about the Starcruiser actually being converted into Imagineering offices. Crazy news story there. We have a lot to discuss today. We have a lot of stories on the books. We got those two stories and much, much more on this episode of OG55. Let's get it. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We were talking about Rise of Resistance, fixing those blaster cannons, Imagineering moves into the Starcruiser, and Universal FanFest. Before we dive in, George, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. Okay, first story on the books. This is from The Wrap. It's a wrap. Disney Star Wars Hotel to be converted to offices for future Walt Disney World projects. Exclusive story. The shuttered project will not be open to guests anytime soon. This is courtesy of Drew Taylor over there at The Wrap. Thank you, Drew. Those looking for a return to the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser, the Star Wars themed hotel and experience that opened March 1st, 2022 and closed the following September, will probably have to put that dream aside as of now, there are no signs that you will be able to return to a galaxy far, far away. According to several sources, including an individual close to the company, the building that formerly housed the immersive adventure is being converted into offices for Disney Imagineering, the secretive arm of the company responsible for theme park attractions, retail locations, and cruise ships. This is an interesting story, George. Here is the thing. I'm kind of torn a little bit on this story because some people are really, really upset. Like, why isn't Disney turning this into like an attraction, or at least bulldozing it so they can expand Hollywood studios? And I get that. I get that frustration. You know what I'm saying? But I also get the other side of the argument, the Disney side of the argument, where it's like, you know what? We don't have a plan for it yet. You know, we don't have Lake Nona. They canceled the Lake Nona Imagineering project. So we have this empty building. Why not use it in the meantime? Now, here's the thing too, fandom. Just because it's turning into offices right now for Imagineering doesn't mean it's going to stay that way for 30 years. Likely will not. This is likely a very temporary sort of place for Imagineering. But look, as a fan, as a nerd who loves this stuff, it is disappointing overall, just because it's something that, like, you know, we were kind of all hoping that it would be a little bit more of a sexier project that would replace it, something fun and something for the actual guests. And it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. The other thing here is that, Florida has a ton of space. I mean, it is kind of weird to me too that, this property, this Walt Disney World property is so massive. You know, I can see why fans would be upset, playing devil's advocate here, where it's like, well, you have all this space. You can't put an office somewhere else on property. Like, you got to put it here where you're going to cut into the potential of this thing becoming something for the theme park. When you can just move this, move these Imagineers into an office nearby. So I get both sides of the argument. I get why fans are mad, but I also get why Disney's doing it. So that's why I'm kind of torn on this whole situation. But I don't know. What say you, George? What's your feeling on it, brother?
I could see both sides of the spectrum as well. Me being a Disney fan as well, I mean, I would always say any opportunity that you can take something up, bulldoze it, level it, build something back up. Let's expand the parks. Let's add more lands, more attractions. I'm always down for it. But also speaking to Disney's business side, they have a building that's already there. They put so much money into it, so it's like, well, let's not let it go kind of in vain to where we just have to demolish it. Let's utilize it for something. There's nothing in the works right now for an experience or an attraction or a park expansion for that side of Hollywood Studios. So they're probably thinking, well, let's use it for office space for now. And just as OG was saying and everything, and I had said in past shows that in time, it probably will become future park expansion, just not right now. And then also too, with it being an office building adjacent to Hollywood Studios, that does allow the Imagineers to be close at home, so to speak, for the new addition to the park of Monsters Inc. with
Wow.
the Muppets moving over into Rock and Roller Coaster. And we've heard, of course, speculation from good friends of the channel, Jack of DSNY and Drew the Disney Dude, that said in time, with all of Disney's intellectual properties, they are going to eventually expand out beyond Animation Courtyard, behind the Star Wars launch bay, there are office buildings there. So maybe if they freelance some office buildings on the opposite side of the park, where the Galactic Starcruiser was, then that alleviates room where they can expand over on that side, because we don't know what Disney has planned for the next 5 to 10 years after all these projects are completed.
Exactly. It's good to have an Imagineering presence close to the resort with all these projects going on. That's a positive thing, So out the gate, that's a good thing. And you're right, George. We don't know the bigger game plan here. And that's how fans kind of get in trouble with a lot of this stuff too, is because we just see the surface level stuff, the stuff that's being announced, but we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, what the 10-year plan is, so it's easy to kind of look at this stuff and go, oh man, this sucks. And it does suck. I mean, obviously I would rather it be a theme park, obviously. Right. But, sometimes you have to it's a chessboard, and sometimes you have to kind of work with what you got at the moment and kind of utilize that. And that could be what's going on here for the next few years. They might need to use this space for Imagineering, but then eventually they'll get rid of it and it'll be something for guests. Right. So we'll see, I'm not as doom and gloom about it as a lot of other people, but I understand. I sympathize with the people who are upset, because this was a very disappointing project, the Starcruiser. It was a huge black eye for Disney and Imagineering and Bob Chapek, and I think that fans really wanted its good old fashioned redemption story, let's get something in there that's going to blow us away. We had this really disappointing Starcruiser. Now let's put something there that's going to actually showcase what we can do and what will make fans excited. And we didn't get that. We got an office building announcement. So, I can see the disappointment. I'm not going to pretend like this is great news,
I really do hope in time it does become future development for park expansion, because Hollywood Studios needs it. It's the smallest of the 4 parks. If you look at the resort map, the overall, that encompass map of the whole resort with the 4 theme parks, the water parks, Disney Springs, all the hotels, the golf courses, where you see.
Are you talking about Iger's house, or are we talking about the resort?
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Sometimes you could get a little confused on that, especially with all those golf courses.
And they're about the same size, so it's tough. But yeah, go ahead.
But where Hollywood Studios resides on the property, it's kind of a little bit landlocked with all the neighboring Disney Resort hotels around it. Yeah. So in order to expand further out, you would have to basically demolish the Disney Resort hotels, and Disney's not going to do that. Yeah. And I don't want Disney to do that. So they are very limited where park expansion can go with that park. So any little piece of land. So I do hope in time it does. I think it will eventually become park expansion. Also, too, I think that if they were to cut some of the parking lot for Hollywood Studios, I think that's. Don't get me wrong, Hollywood Studios is very popular and it does get a lot of traction, but I think they can alleviate some of that parking lot for park expansion as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's short term. I think it's disappointing news. Great news for Imagineers. You get to work in a pretty dope looking office building. That's gonna be pretty cool. But short term, it's kind of disappointing for guests. But I think long term, eventually, it will be something.
There was. Finish.
Well, I just want to say, a lot of fans wanted them to retheme it, and I don't want that. I think this hotel was purpose built for that experience. I don't want them to go in there and try to like shoehorn some Marvel thing or shoehorn some dinner experience. Just look, anything that they would have done for the guest, you would have to bulldoze this thing. Okay, you could not go in there and like band-aid the shit out of it. It's gonna feel like it was band-aided. Okay, so I'm glad that at least right now it's an office building. We could figure it out later what they're gonna do with that land, but you don't want a half-ass experience replacing it. It was bad enough that we had the Starcruiser and it failed. You don't want to go in there now and retheme it and have it look like a Spirit of Halloween store, you know? So, you know, look, it sucks right now having it be an office building, but the positive, the silver lining is that they're taking the time now to really consider what to replace it with, not rushing in there and just kind of willy-nilly, like knee-jerk replacements. I think that's a good thing. You know, if there's a silver lining in all of this, that's one of them.
I do also think it's kind of like a funny, ironic situation. Actually, Ebba brought it to my attention that when the Imagineers eventually go into that building for their offices, of how much kind of like a slap in the face it could be for them that their office was essentially something that was so hyped up that was going to be something that was worked on as the greatest experience ever made, and now it's down to like office cubicles and a cafeteria, and it's like like here's like an epic failure for you, but here's your workstation to dream up more stuff for the parks.
You know, Ebba's right on that. I mean, it is kind of like you're Imagineering moving into this hotel experience is like kind of like a daily reminder when they go to work, like, okay, this was a failure, and it was, you know, yeah, I can totally see that. Now, to be fair to Imagineering too, though, I mean, it wasn't so much their work necessarily that was the problem with this hotel experience. I think it really was the price points and just the overall concept, which I guess you can put that on Imagineering, the concept, the overall idea of it, I guess. But yeah, it was just. It was kind of doomed from the start, you know, way too expensive. I mean, very niche market. You got to be a real Star Wars nerd to want to LARP like that for 3 days. And who's got like $6,000 to fuck around with that? I just, yeah, it was not something that really wasn't going to take off, and it didn't. So they cut their losses.
It didn't go to light speed.
It didn't go to Lightspeed. No, it did not. But we do have some positive park news that is going Lightspeed, and that's from Mr. Scott Gustin. The cannons on Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland are moving and firing again. Boom. It says here, teams have been working for a long time to restore the effect, and it has been restored as of this morning. Disneyland officials confirmed. So this is awesome. This is something, and we said it on a live show that we just did, okay? This is something that Disney could have left and could have ignored and just had the static cannons be the new show. Kind of like what they did with the Jolly Trolley in Toontown. You park that bad boy and you just leave it. It's basically photo op now, right? Disney could have done the same thing here. I mean, it's been a long time since these cannons have worked. So they easily could have just left it the way it was and called it a day. Am I condoning that? No, I'm not condoning that. I don't think they should have done that. Okay. But they could have, is what I'm saying, right? They could have. But the fact they went in there and they fixed it, kudos to Disney, right? And kudos to Josh D'Amaro. We criticize Josh a lot on this show because we feel a lot of his decisions have not been the greatest. But if the buck stops with Josh, then the buck stops with Josh with the good stuff. And you gotta be fair. So kudos to D'Amaro for this. You know what I'm saying? And the team that worked on it, obviously. I mean, this is fantastic news. I really never thought this thing was coming back. I really thought, you know what, they gave up on it. It was done. And it's not. And now hopefully whatever the issue was, they figured it out and they did find a permanent solution. Hopefully this isn't something where in a month from now, we're going to be back to where we started. That worries me, but we'll see. Hopefully now we'll have some consistency with this. They fixed the problem. We're good to go. But George, what are your thoughts on this?
This is really good news. Yeah, for the park goers, for the theme parks in general, for the ride. I agree with you. I thought for sure that this was pretty much kind of dead in the water once it stopped working. I thought it would just be stagnant. It would just have like the blaster effect to the screen, kind of have like how they did with the Yeti over at Expedition Everest, where it's just sitting there, you know, don't really know. But it does go to show you that when you think that Disney doesn't care, and they're not considering on fixing something, it still shows it's in their to-do list that they want to fix these things.
Well, and you're right, and that bodes well to Epcot fans with that LED flooring that has been plagued with issues since it opened. You know what I'm saying? I think it still has issues right now. I don't even think it's working right now.
I think there's still some issues.
There's issues. So just because it's taken a long time doesn't mean that they're not going to ever fix it. This is proof. The cannons moving are now canon. You like what I did there? You like what I did there? No, but this is really, really good news, and I can't say it enough. That you know, as a fandom, we have to celebrate these wins. We have to celebrate these wins. We have to let management know that we appreciate this stuff, that we appreciate them continuing the Disney difference, not letting shit slide, not getting lazy and cheap. We have to applaud the good things. You know what I'm saying? If we only complain, management is going to think our fandom is absolutely nuts, and they're never going to listen to us. I don't want that. Y'all want that? I don't want that. I want Disney to take our fandom seriously. So let's give the kudos when the kudos are due. Okay, the kudos are due for this. This is a fantastic move. Disney, please, more of this. Okay, if something's broken, go to Epcot with the lighting, fix that, get it done. The fans do appreciate it. We want this stuff to be fixed.
The Yeti at Animal Kingdom. Let's get it fixed.
Let's get the Yeti Animal Kingdom fixed. Believe me, you fix the Yeti in Animal Kingdom, I'm telling you, Disney. Oh my gosh, Bob Iger, you want some wins? That's a win for the like in the nerd circles. That's a huge win. How long has that thing been static for, George? It's been at least a decade.
Since 2007, I believe.
That's crazy, dude. That is absolutely crazy, man. Well, yeah, that's too long, too long. But if they fix it, I am so sorry, by the way. I don't know why I look like I'm like freaking like broadcasting from the moon with this bright ass light. I don't know why it's doing that all of a sudden. But anyway, our next story, George, is Universal, bro.
All right.
Universal. We've been pretty positive lately about Universal. They've been doing some good stuff. They have. They've been doing some
good stuff. How do you like that? We're actually giving positivity where positivity deserves. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We're Disney fans, and we can absolutely admit when Universal does some good stuff. And this Universal FanFest night is beyond good news. Okay, this is the issue that I've had, and I've said it. You've heard me. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a long time, you've heard for the longest time Universal has an IP problem, right? They leaned so much into the Minion crap for far too long, all that stuff. The old school Universal IP, Back to the Future, E.T., these are the IPs, man. These are the quality IPs I want to see more of, and Universal's leaning into it. We did a great show about a week or two ago with Capture the Magic, Jared. Jared's an awesome dude, by the way. We love Jared. Make sure you go check out his channel as well. But Universal is leaning more and more and more into their older IP, more and more into their nostalgia, right? Smart move. It's worked very well for Disney. I think it can work very well for Universal. But it says here, the nostalgia experience is based on the 1985 Back to the Future blockbuster movie and invites guests to time travel back to 1955 Hill Valley. Okay? 1955 Hill Valley alongside the film's iconic characters. Time travel begins the moment guests climb aboard the studio tour fan tram. I love it. I love that. And venture towards Courthouse Square, the original filming location for this classic film located on the Universal Studios world famous backlot. This is one of the most amazing things. Universal Hollywood, maybe not the strongest theme park, but that tram tour is absolute magic. Absolute magic. I love it. Brimming with authenticity, Back to the Future Destination Hill Valley will pay homage to this groundbreaking film by inserting guests into many familiar scenes with iconic props. From Hill Valley with the original Lion Estates monument to the time machine on display, guests will have the sensation of going back in time as they partake in the energetic recreation of the Enchantment Under the Sea dance and Hill Valley Festival Plus experience, a stunning recreation of the Clock Tower lightning strike. They're going to recreate the lightning strike, dude. I mean, this is absolutely insane. Sending Marty back to the future multiple times each event night. Also, here's some photos of the treats and merch that will be exclusive to the event. Now, I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Mondo, our good friend Mondo of Five Fires. Amazing dude, great content creator for his coverage on this. He's been doing some fantastic stuff. Also, a big shout out to Theme Park Wizard, who's been crushing it with the Universal stuff and has been for a long, long time. But I mean, this is crazy. This is just the Back to the Future stuff. I mean, they got Dungeons and Dragons. They have a Star Trek. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Universal is doing for FanFest. This is what they should be doing. I love this. I think they're testing the waters for more Back to the Future. I'm hoping we get a next gen Back to the Future attraction. Don't bring back the old ride. I want to see what current Universal can do with this IP. Okay, I want to see what the current management team. We've seen them do amazing stuff with Epic Universe, right? With what they're doing over there. We've seen them do amazing stuff with Islands of Adventure and all that stuff. I want to see what the current group of Universal creatives can do with this IP, whether it's a Kuka arm kind of style ride that you go through like, you know, sets and screens or something else. I don't care. I want to see what they can do with Back to the Future. And this, if this proves to be successful and it shows Universal that this franchise is still very viable for them, huge likelihood, in my opinion, that we'll see a Back to the Future attraction. Because Universal, they are really leaning into their nostalgia right now. And I love it. George, what are your thoughts on this, brother?
So my take on this, I'm starting to see like hints of hope with Back to the Future coming back to Universal with the merchandise line that they're coming out with. Now they're incorporating Back to the Future, everything that you just described into the Fan Fest. And I would love to see them bring back to the Future in a big way with a brand new, you know, e-ticket technological attraction that's worthy of the blockbuster trilogy. Yep. And I remember my first time going to Universal Hollywood and doing the Epic Tram Tour. One of the first stops was the Hill Valley set for Back to the Future. And I tell you what, the first time I saw that, I got chills. It gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, dude.
The fact that I'm looking at the real life set that's still there back from 1985 from the original Back to the Future film, I was just in awe. And that was just me looking at the set. But Universal has something very unique here with this event, that they're not just recreating scenes from the film on a stage or creating backdrops or creating, you know, black box kind of buildings. No, they're recreating the scenes from the actual set that the movie was filmed on.
Yeah,
you can't get anywhere like more perfect than that.
Dude, I can only get so erect, bro. You know what I'm saying? This is like the perfect nerdy experience ever. I love it. I absolutely love it. This is probably one of the most perfect trilogies also of all time.
Yes, I agree.
I hope to God Universal do not reboot this franchise. You will see a backlash amongst film fans that you will not believe, but I don't think they will. I don't want to say it like, I don't want to make it sound like that's out there. It's not. They're not trying to reboot it, but yeah. I'm just saying in general, keep it the way it is. But this is fantastic, you know, and Dungeons and Dragons are coming to FanFest. You know, I was in the 80s growing up. I used to watch the cartoon. Okay. I'm aging myself quite a bit, but you know, it is what it is. Star Trek, which is awesome. I mean, that's very much like the, what is it? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's like really Star Wars competition, because it's more science. What's the word for it? Science fiction, as opposed to Star Wars, which is more science fantasy. But it kind of plays in that same kind of space, so that was smart. I think a smart move, and they can do this every year, dude, and they can bring in these IPs, and they can do like, you know, outside IPs or whatever, and do these really cool, like nerdy, like, you know, experiences. I think it's fantastic, and Universal has the resources with the movie sets and the back lot and all that stuff to do really cool events. I think this is fantastic. I think this is a big response. I mean, look, you know, these after hours events, this is a sizable response to the Mouse House. I mean, let's be honest, dude. I mean, Universal, they're like, okay, we see what you got over there, Disney. We're gonna do this. Yep. It's pretty big, bro. It's pretty big, you know. You think Disney is taking notice?
I think Disney's taken notice, and it really shows how much Universal was taking notice at Disney, kind of seeing like what works for Disney and what works in their formula for the After Dark series, like with Star Wars Night and Disney Channel Night, 90s Night, Flashback, or not Flashback, Throwback Night. Um, with different time eras and everything. And I think Universal really is starting to notice that the quintessential key to their success is their own IP that they, unfortunately don't use enough of it. And I'm starting to see that Back to the Future seems to be paving that way for them. On top of even the classic Universal monsters, they're going all the way back, with Epic Universe. So I hope that Universal continues that trend. I want to see more of the classic Universal monsters, more Back to the Future, more Jaws, more ET. I want to see them utilize their IPs.
Yeah. And you said Universal's paving the way, but hopefully where we're going, we don't need roads. Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, speaking of that, I actually have a really cool OG55 intro. I'm going to play it real quick before we close it out. Here we go. Yes, I've had that intro for a very, very long time. It's an oldie but goodie. Little OG55 Back to the Future, collabo there. Pretty awesome. But George, any final thoughts on the Imagineering stuff, Universal stuff, the Rise of Resistance stuff, the fact that working cannons are canon again, all that?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm very happy to see that the cannons are now canon again at Rise of the Resistance. I'm very optimistic that even though, it is somewhat of a disappointment to see the Starcruiser become work offices for WDI, but it is something that does involve Imagineering, for them to be closer to the park. So that's a positive sign.
Yeah, it's a terrible headline. It really is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't think it's the end of the world. And I think eventually it'll be a theme park.
I agree. And then, of course, with the Universal FanFest, I think this is just the sign for good things to come. I think that they will do more of these in the coming years, but with different IPs for different years. And I'm really excited to see the many different things, like in the locations, like with you had mentioned Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons and One Piece, but the one that I'm really looking forward to is the Back to the Future. Like that is I think that's going to be everybody's go-to for this fest.
Yeah, and they have a really good eclectic mix of nerdy stuff. You have for the Trekkies, right? You got the anime heads, right, with One Piece. Shout out to our friend Lucas Kim for that, and actually Evan's our buddy Evan is a huge anime fan. Shout out to him. But then you have Dungeons and Dragons. You got Back to the Future. They're covering really a lot of different corners of the nerdy realm, so to speak. So really good variety, I think. But fantastic stuff. Overall, really good news across the board. We'll keep an eye on the Imagineering stuff for sure. But the Italiano, where can everybody at home find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go, everybody. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything that we discussed today. We would love to hear from you. We're going to end it with the Asian Queen. I'm not calling her the Asian Queen. That's her name on Instagram. She's the Asian Queen with 3 E's. Go give her a follow. She's absolutely amazing. She does fantastic work. The very lovely Asian Queen is going to take us out of here.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.